Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about my airbrushing setup. You see right behind me here. I'm going to talk about some equipment I use and a few tips on my setup in particular. Before we go over to the booth, let me just talk a few housekeeping issues. Firstly, airbrushes. This is the airbrush I use, and it is the Procon Boy Mr. Hobby or Guns Procon Boy PS 289. This is an awesome airbrush. I've used it for over 3 years now. Not need a part or anything done to it. It just goes. Whatever I put through here, it just flows, sprays beautifully. It does have the lock at the back here, so you can adjust the nozzle. Sorry, just the trigger, how trigger pull, how much paint comes out. It also has a MAC valve built into, which I don't really use. It's a little bit. I don't really like this. It seems a little flimsy, so I don't really use that one. But anyway, so it's a great airbrush itself, reasonably priced. I did it before. I had a Harder and Steenbeck Infinity CR Plus, which was about 3 times the price of this, and I just didn't like it at all. It was a 0.2 needle. Everything I put through it just kept stopping and starting. It was just a chore. I think when it comes to airbrushing, it's all about confidence and getting a good spray session to build that confidence up, and this certainly did that for me. So like I said, I've used it about 3 years now. This is a 0.3 needle. I find it's fine for modeling, and what I do, 0.3 is really the kind of sweet spot for me. It just means I can put whatever I want through here, and it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't block or anything. It just goes. 0.2, your paint needs to be a little bit more thinner and a little bit careful mixtures, but with 0.3, you have a little bit more wiggle room. It's only 1/10 of a millimeter difference, but it does make quite a big painting. So I use this almost every day for everything, for acrylics, enamels, lacquers, clear coats, you name it. Goes through the airbrush, and after every time I sprayed it, I do clean it out pretty religiously. Don't fill strip it, just clean out the cup and the needle and everything, and that's pretty much it. So PS 289. A couple other airbrushes I have. I used to have more, but I got rid of some. I don't need obviously so many airbrushes. I also have the Procon Boy PS 770, which is a custom micron. It's the 770. It's 0.18 needle. So this I use for very fine detail, lacquer paints primarily, because that's thin because of the needle size. And I use, like I've built 1/72 scale armor, and I've managed to freehand camo, no problem with this. Get in there and really kind of do really good detail work, precision. So that's what I don't use it very often, but that's what I kind of have. It's nice airbrush. So one thing I didn't mention is these Mr. Hobby airbrushes are actually iWater. They're made in the iWater factory, iWater parts, but literally half the price from iWater, and all it has is Mr. Hobby stamped on the side. So they are made in the iWater factory in Japan. So rather than going out and buying an iWater airbrush, I highly recommend the Procon Boy ones. Supplement that, I have this guy, which is a very cheap, like probably $10 one off eBay from Chinese airbrush. This has its place. Not for professional, like a lot of good airbrushing and technique, but really things like you don't want to put through the good airbrushes. So when I say that, I mean talking about like clay washes, if you want to airbrush it, or certain things. Not if you use Pledge or Future, which I don't really use it. Well, I don't use it at all. I recommend it, but if you do that kind of stuff too, I wouldn't really want to put it through my normal airbrush. So all that kind of stuff, I just have a cheap airbrush. So anything I don't want, like I say, to damage my expensive one, I just use the cheapie. So I had that guy as well. So yeah, so they're my 3 airbrushes. And like I say, the PS 289, which is the Mr. Hobby Platinum 0.3 needle, is what I use. If you're just starting out, I don't think you need necessarily the Platinum Edition. If you just get the regular Mr. Hobby 0.3 needle, I can't remember what number it is, but that would do you just fine. You don't really need the MAC valve or the stop. It's nice, but I very rarely use it. To be honest with you, a lot of time my airbrush, I don't even have the back on. The needle's out, right? Well, needle's in actually, but I normally just have this off and spray like that, just purely so I can do color changes and cleaning. I can just whip the needle out real easy, and it's a lot better than having to unscrew this all the time and mess around with it. So that's my airbrushes. Now, before I get too waffly, let's switch the camera and take a look at my booth and my extractor and stuff, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the equipment I have and a few tips what I kind of use for my thinners and bottles and that kind of stuff. So here's a wide shot showing my kind of spray area here. I'm calling the bench. The main thing here is I have a extractor, which is a bench vent VD BV300DS, I believe it is. I'll put links to all the stuff down below so you can kind of see it. Great bit of kit. Life has a great engine, motor inside it, and it has a lifetime warranty as well. So it's really important. I do lacquer paints and various other paints, and it's important, to have an extractor. I use a spare room in the house, and I have kids and animals, so it's important to be safe and get that stuff extracted out the house. In addition to the extractor, good housekeeping. I don't always, but I should be always a 3M mask, just because not everything goes in the extractor. You at the end of the day, atomizing paint, so whether it be acrylic paint or lacquer paint, whatever it is, none of that stuff is good if it gets in your lungs. So health and safety first. So I do have a 3M mask also. So if I'm doing, typically if I just do a quick little spraying session, unfortunately I don't wear it. I'm kind of bad. I need to wear it more often. But if I'm putting down like a coat of paint or a primer or something, I make sure I always wear this. So have a dual filters on it. I have the main filter, and also have a particulate filter as well on the outside. And these should get changed about every 6 months. It's been a while since I changed it, and actually just bought some more on eBay. Not eBay, sorry, Amazon. And these are the cartridges. I think I have the wrong cartridge in these ones, but you should be having the gas vapor ones. So I'm using 6006 is what I'm using, which after a lot of reading, I believe these are good for paint. But there's so many different types of these filters, these cartridges. Just check online and make sure you get the right ones for what you need, because there's a million different types of, like I say, of uses and stuff for these masks. So that's my kind of health and safety part. Going back to the extractor, I don't have a dry vent, as I mentioned. In a wall, as I mentioned, I am in the spare room of a house. I don't really want to draw a hole in the wall, so if I kind of turn my camera around right here, you can see it vents out the window. That's a VentWorks device, which I use. It expands and contracts, and basically fits in underneath a window. If you're not using, you can just take it out and close the window. The window kind of holds it in place, but to be honest, I very rarely take it out. I'm painting most days, whatever, and I just leave it in all the time. It's pretty inconspicuous, and it works great. So VentWorks for that, and as you see, the hose just literally just kind of feeds right into it, and then all the stuff goes outside, all the extracted fumes. If I go down a little bit, you can see down here I have my compressor, and that is a Sparmax 620. To be honest, 610 is probably my preferred one, but 620 is the model up that has capability to run multiple airbrushes at once. Has dual piston, and it comes with a 2.5 litre tank. Like I say, the 610 is the model down, is a little bit cheaper. For what I need, that's probably better, and it has a single piston, so it actually fills it up tank a little bit quicker, I hear. Thing is, I couldn't get here in the US. I couldn't get a 610. All I could get was a 620, so that's what I got. It's a great compressor. Also had that a few years. Yeah, really like it. The moisture trap and the pressure valve did fail on mine. It comes with a 2-year warranty, and literally like a week after 2 weeks were up, as always, it failed. But fortunately, I had another Pasquet one downstairs in the garage, so I just managed to just replace it and use that one instead. So hose. Excuse all the stuff hanging off it, all the masking tape and everything. But my hose, I don't use a traditional airbrush hose. I use just a clear tubing from Home Depot. It's just literally from the aquarium section, like for aquariums and that kind of stuff. Not sure exactly what the size is, but I think it's 5/8 is what it goes through. I have one of these adapters. It's really tight on there. And then above that is a Mac valve, just a cheapy one from Amazon, and then a quick release. Quick releases are pretty essential, really, because it means you just switch your airbrushes real quick without having to like unscrew them all every time. So why the clear hose? Well, mainly because you can actually see what's inside it. You can, if there's any moisture or anything, you can see what's inside the hose. And yeah, it lasts a couple of years or so. I've had this actually 3 years and it's still going strong, but eventually they do kind of expand and get a bit old, and you just replace it with another stretch. Also, you can obviously cut it to whatever length you want, and they're not very cheap at all. It's just buying the fixed fittings to, for each side to go on there. And that's it. So that's the airbrush. Really talked about the airbrush itself. What else? So the only thing with the Sparmax is the on-off switch is at the back, so it's kind of really inconvenient. So I basically got one of these fobs and a remote outlet, and it all linked up to a power strip. So when I turn it on, it kicks, everything turns on at once. So I have a light, it turns on the light, turns on the extractor, and it turns on the compressor. So I'll just show you, it's gonna be a little bit noisy, so I'll just do it for a few seconds and then turn it off. Yep, the air compressor is empty right now, so once the tank fills, it goes to silent and you don't hear it. But generally it's pretty quiet. It might sound louder on the camera, but I have a 2 and a 5-year-old and I can spray in the room next to them and it doesn't disturb them. There you go, so an extractor. See, it's good. Turn this off. What I have, my kind of tray here, so it's just old kit box. Every few months I just change them out to get messy. And I have one of these, I think it's a Spray Works from Tamiya. It comes with like the car kind of holder attachment too, or you can use like a cake stand or something, just something so it spins. It's gonna be a pain, you can easily move stuff around, and I just have got toilet, not toilet paper, kitchen towel on top of it. My top tip too for the kitchen towel is I cut it up. I get the slices and then I just fold them up and cut them into little pieces, and it lasts a lot longer, especially right now, you know, this day and age where toilet paper and paper towels are really hard to come by, especially here where I am in Virginia. It just obviously goes a lot longer, so I don't need a huge strip of paper just to clean an airbrush. Just these little pieces, even probably half the size of that would work. So I cut, like I say, I cut them up and then have like a little stash next to my airbrushing station. But you know, a couple of normal slices makes, you know, quite a few individual pieces. What else? So the other thing to talk about is maybe my thinners. Across the camera. This airbrush cleaner from Vallejo is really good stuff for acrylic paints. But more importantly, these bottles are awesome. They have a really nice kind of top and like end, and that's a couple of drips off. So you can, you know, it doesn't use a bunch, so it really kind of saves and a bit more economical. So what I do is I keep all my whole bottles and I just count it in there. So you see the labels on here. So I have IPA, Tamiya lacquer thinner, Guns leveling thinner. You see it all similar box, but I just mark them all and use these, because if I was going to use this guy, it's kind of a little unwieldy to kind of pour in the airbrush. You use way more. Rather than getting a couple of drops, you're using like a few milliliters of this. This stuff isn't cheap either, thinners, and also I don't like dealing with pipettes and hundreds of pipettes and throwing them away all the time and stuff. So like I say, I just get a count it into these bottles, and these work great. And I just label maker, I just labeled which one each is. As you can see, I've got a few different ones. That's because I like to use whatever the brand of paint. I like to use the thinner to go with that, and also use the same thinner to clean as well. So if I was using a Tamiya paint, I use Tamiya thinner, and if I was using Hitaka paint, I use Hitaka thinner. I just find that's just the way it works best for me in painting. It's especially designed for those paints. And if you spend a lot of money on models and paints and all the rest of the stuff, you know, what's a few more dollars to make sure you got the right paint flowing and everything. So I definitely use the manufacturer's thinners. I've got another video about cleaning airbrushes, but basically I just use a thinner. I used to use IPA for most stuff, but IPA used to be dirt cheap, like $2 for a giant bottle, but now it's the main ingredient of hand sanitizer, so now it's pretty much impossible to get, or if you do get it, it's more expensive than thinner. So that was a cheap way back in the day. At some point in time, I'm sure it'll return back to being a cheap price, and IPA will be cheap again. But IPA works great for lacquers or acrylic paints for cleaning airbrushes. And if you look up here, you can see this. Like, this is another example. Like, so the Hitaka lacquer thinner, again, I put in the bottle. These are just from eBay, just cheap like dropper bottles. But again, it's just way more convenient using dropper bottles and these kind of bottles than using like the manufacturer packaging. And it goes, like I say, it lasts longer too, because you're just using a couple of drops rather than using like milliliters. You get more control. So that's pretty much it. So I talked about my booth, my compressor, wearing a mask, thinners, airbrushes. That's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys found that interesting. Any questions at all, let me know. Just put it in the comments below. The only one thing I mentioned is my very expensive airbrush stand. As you can see, it is a closed peg. You don't need anything fancy. Just put a closed peg on the side and holds the airbrush perfectly well, like that. Also, I have, as most people, have one of these pots So all the junk kind of goes into the pot when you're done. And if you just leave the lid off, it will evaporate. So you have to worry about kind of decanting or anything. Just now and again, just leave it slightly open. It will just evaporate all the contents. And that is it. So again, any questions, let me know. Hopefully you found it interesting, picked up a few tips. I'll put some more these kind of videos up as well if you guys want them. And until next time, have a good one, stay safe, and happy modeling.